Javon, I want to come to you because you're his friend. You were on the island on the 4th. You were on a different boat. Do you recall seeing him at all that day?
Yes, ma'am. I did see him when I was out there on the island.
Can you tell me what you saw? Does anything seem strange to you about the difference that people are saying of how he was separated from the group?
No, ma'am. I don't think that Nolan would say, hey, bro, I'm staying with this girl on the island.
For weeks, that was a story everyone accepted. An 18-year-old kid named Nolan Wells stayed behind on a remote barrier island on the 4th of July, choosing a girl he just met over a ride home with his friends. No phone, no car keys, just gone by choice into night. That was the official version, the version that closed the book before it even opened. But the young man you just heard from isn't buying it, and he was closer to Nolan than almost anyone else on that island. My name doesn't matter here. What matters are the facts. So before we go any further into what Javon believes and why, let's establish something about how this channel operates. We don't chase anonymous internet theories. We don't platform rumors with no names attached to them. If we're going to challenge an accepted narrative, we do it with verifiable facts and identifiable people who are willing to put their name behind their words. So before we get back to Javon's claim, we need to address the part of this case that isn't emotional, isn't speculative, it's physical. It's the evidence sitting in a report.
We don't know all the evidence. There's been one state's autopsy, and that has not been released. The family sent the body of Nolan Wells for a second independent autopsy, and that autopsy says undetermined. This is what I do know, Griff. I know on the back of his head, the occipital bone back here, there is deep red subcutaneous tissue. It's not anywhere else. It is not pooling of the blood once he's died. The blood pools at the lowest point. It's not that because it's only there. I'm curious, does that suggest a blow to the head? There are many accidental possibilities. When you look at the video out there are tons of boats. They're close together. Did he drink and drown in between one of those boats and nobody noticed? I don't know that. However, that deep reddening on the occipital bone is very disturbing to me. Also, you think, oh, he drowned, but we don't have the lungs. When the second autopsy got the body, the lungs and the throat were missing. Now, I understand, Griff, why they took the lungs to determine if he had drowned, but why was the neck missing? What about the interior of the throat sparked the initial medical examiner's concern? Was there some bruising on the neck? I don't know. So right now, it could go in so many different directions. But let me tell you this. The call that the friends made when they were returning without Nolan, they say he wanted to stay and be with a friend girl he just met. She, Katie, says, no, he left with his friends. I got a problem right there. That's a conflict in the testimony. But when you listen to the call the other friends made, they called SEATOW, S-E-A-T-O-W, and said, we're sinking. In this newly released sound, you can make out somebody saying, wake the F up. What does that mean? I'm not resting till I find out if that's real. Has it been doctored? And if it is real, who are they talking to?
So many questions that you raise, Nancy, and as someone who's investigated these things, you know which questions to ask. I want to take you back, though, because that marking on the back of his head is not insignificant, as you rightfully point out, because also the size of it, right? It's like a 12 by 8. I mean, it's not a small clue in this. Expand on that a bit, if you will.
Yes, that's perfect. Right there is showing exactly where the reddened tissue is, and is subcutaneous under the skin. Now, as we all know, in an autopsy, the skin is pulled away from the body to look at the tissue underneath the skin. That's where the second medical examiner, doctor, found it. Many people are arguing it was a blow to the back of the head. Many people argue he fell, hit his head on the boat, and went over. Well, if that happened, didn't anybody see him? So it's going to boil down to witness testimony. And what that neck truly reveals. Again, why did the first medical examiner keep that part of the body? It was not sent to the second autopsy. That raises my antenna. There's a lot of hate going on around this case. It's very hard to understand. Again, it could be accidental. It may not be. And we can't stop the investigation until we know. This young man was 18. You know how old my twins are? 18. And I would be lying on the front of the courthouse steps screaming for an answer till I got one.
Let's break that down piece by piece, because legal analysts don't say things like this casually. First, deep red discoloration in the subcutaneous tissue at the back of Nolan's skull, the occipital region. That kind of localized redness can indicate blunt force trauma prior to death, though it can also result from lividity or post-mortem positioning in water. It is not, on its own, proof of anything. It is a red flag that demands explanation. Second, a second independent autopsy reportedly found tissue missing from the neck and throat area, tissue that should have been present for examination. Decomposition and marine animal activity are common, documented explanations for this in water recoveries. But so is manual trauma. Without the full state autopsy being public, we cannot know which applies here. Third, a 911 call describing a boat sinking, which conflicts with a friend's own later accounts of what happened that night. Now, here's where we have to be responsible. These are disturbing details. They are not proof of a homicide. Bodies recovered from water after days in warm Gulf conditions frequently show tissue loss and discoloration that mimic trauma. The investigation into Nolan's death remains open, and no cause of death has been officially ruled by the state at the time of this recording. We're not here to tell you Nolan was murdered. We're here to tell you the official story as whole serious enough that a national legal commentator is publicly asking questions about it. That distinction matters. Now, let's go back to the story everyone was originally told, the one from the friends who were with Nolan that night. According to Truss Shepard and Warren Hudson, the two friends in a boat with Nolan, the night went like this. Their boat began having mechanical issues, specifically a failing bilge pump, while anchored off Horn Island during 4th of July festivities. Believing Nolan wanted to stay behind with a young woman he'd just met, they left the island without him, planning for him to catch a ride back later with someone else. To their credit, this account has remained consistent since day one. There's no indication Shepard or Hudson have changed their story under pressure. That consistency deserves acknowledgement. But consistency is not the same as accuracy. And that's where Javon Williams enters the picture, not as someone who was on the boat that night, but as a person who knew Nolan longer and better than almost anyone in this story. Pause on that for a second. Really consider what was just said. Javon is not claiming to have witnessed a crime. He's not saying I saw something happen. What he's doing is something quietly more powerful. He's establishing a behavioral pattern built over years of friendship. In his experience, Nolan simply did not operate the way the story requires him to have operated. If Nolan got in a boat with you, he got out of that boat with you at the same time in the same place. Then there's Tashima's account of phone recovery. And this is worth sitting with. A tracking app placed Nolan's phone at one location. Snapchat location data placed it somewhere else entirely. The people looking for answers ended up at a dark house. And once there, it reportedly took 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Before Nolan's phone was actually produced, with apparent confusion among the teens present about who had physically been holding it. That is not proof of a cover-up, but it is a documented, specific, time-stamped irregularity on a night that is supposed to have a simple explanation. Simple explanations don't usually require 15 minutes of confusion over a missing phone. Now, a fair question. Is this just one grieving friend's emotional interpretation? Best friends are biased. We understand that. Grief distorts memory, and loyalty can shape belief. So we look for a second independent voice, someone from a completely different part of Nolan's life, who would have no reason to coordinate a story with Javon. We found one. Notice what just happened there. That is not Javon's voice. That is not a teenager processing grief in real time. That is a father describing a rule he instilled in his son over the course of his entire life. A rule about numbers, about accountability, about never leaving someone behind. Two people, two completely different relationships to Nolan Wells. One a best friend his own age, one a parent who raised him, arriving independently at the exact same conclusion. The official story doesn't match who Nolan actually was. That's not coincidence. That's corroboration. When two unconnected sources describe the same character trait without coordinating their answers, it becomes significantly harder to dismiss as bias or grief alone. But let's be intellectually honest about something important. Acting out a character is not physical evidence of foul play. People do unpredictable things. Attraction, alcohol, adrenaline, peer pressure. Any of these could theoretically explain a deviation from a lifelong pattern. We are not going to pretend a behavioral argument equals forensic proof, which brings us to something else. Because in the vacuum left by unanswered questions, the internet did what the internet does. Rumors spread. Viral videos circulated. Some accused Nolan's friend group of racial motivations. Others pointed to an alleged fight video as key evidence of violence that night. Pay close attention to what Javon just did, because it says everything about his credibility. He had every opportunity to lean into the most viral, most attention-grabbing version of the story. He could have confirmed the fight video. He could have made accusations about race. Instead, he corrected the record, clarifying that the video attributed to Nolan actually shows someone else entirely, and he explicitly declined to speculate about racial motivation. That restraint matters. Javon isn't chasing engagement. He isn't building a narrative for clicks. And that's exactly why his one unwavering point carries so much weight. Nolan being separated from his phone and his keys is the detail he keeps returning to, not the fight video, not the racial angle, the phone, the keys, the one physical fact that, in his mind, has no innocent explanation. When someone refuses easy, sensational answers but insists on one specific detail, that's usually the detail worth taking seriously. So where does that leave us? On one side, a consistent account from Trust Shepard and Warren Hudson. Mechanical failure. A belief that Nolan wanted to stay. No reason given to doubt their memory of events. On the other side, a mother in grief. A best friend describing a behavioral pattern that spans years. A father describing a safety rule Nolan followed his entire life. A documented 15-minute delay in producing his phone. And forensic details. The occipital discoloration. The missing neck tissue. That remain officially unexplained. Two narratives, both partially supported, neither fully proven. Here's what we know for certain right now. The state autopsy remains sealed. Toxicology results are still pending. No grand jury has convened, and no charges have been filed against anyone. We are not going to manufacture a conclusion this case hasn't earned yet. What we will do is keep watching the story as it develops, and bring you the verified facts the moment they surface. Not the rumors, not the speculation, the facts. If you want to be here when that happens, subscribe to the channel now. We'll see you in the next one.